Good morning and happy Thanksgiving if you're in the US. If you're anywhere else in the world, or you're in Canada, specifically happy late Thanksgiving. But everywhere else, hope you're having a great day. Or if you're watching this in the future. Today's tutorial is on snowballs, and when you throw a snowball, it's going to freeze the person it hits in place. And we're going to do a very basic, simple script, or at least that's the goal. I'll try to keep this in the 15 to 30 minute range. So yeah, without further ado, let's jump right in. So here you can see I have created a snowball script. I named it snowball_entity. I deleted the HZ and dot, and then backspaced the T. Clicking enter right like that would import it, adds this import line at the top. So this is just the basic script starting point. And our snowball needs to know about something or some things. Let's start with all the things that I can think of. So it needs a raycast. This is like, if you're coming from code blocks, we're defining the properties on the properties panel. So we need a raycast gizmo, which is of type prop type, which is a prop type called entity, which is the same as object from code block. We don't use the word object in TypeScript because it has a completely different meaning. And now that we've got our raycast defined as an entity, we can Command C, Command V, because we also need a sound effects and a VFX. So like the hit sound effects, the hit VFX, pretty cool basic stuff. And now that we got that defined, we need a local variable called, well, I thought about it. I still want it. No, okay, for now we're going to come back to that. I'm going to leave a comment here because the problem with Horizon's collision system is that it'll collide over like 100 times within 1/10 of a second, something ridiculous. It's probably closer to like 10 times in 1/10 of a second, but it's still like a ridiculous number of collision events happen. And so the idea is that we have a Boolean that that makes it so only one hit per throw, because we might want to add statistics and stuff, right? So for now, that's that. Now I'm going to add pre-start here, so I just clicked enter to get that in here. I don't like the voids, so I delete the voids. This one also is technically :void, but like I said, I just prefer it to look like this. And so now that we got our pre-start and start set up, for reference, void means it doesn't return anything. So now that we have our pre-start and start set up, let's connect the code block event for object hitting player. So we're going to go, and we need the grab start event as well. So let's start with grab start. So I'm going to put that right here, grab start parentheses, which I believe is received with is right hand, which is a Boolean. And then we have that also received with player, which is a player, and curly braces. So this tutorial is relatively easy, but if you've done no TypeScript yet, you might want to start with something. I think I've got a crash course live stream that might be worth starting with. That was like 4 or 5 videos ago. But this is pretty basic stuff. So we've got a Boolean parameter, a player parameter. We basically have to create the events, and so then we connect the event. Connect code block event parenthesis from this dot entity, so it's when this snowball gets grabbed, and then the grab event is under code block events with an S dot, and then type in grab, and you'll see on grab start. Now I like my local methods to reflect these names, so that's why I've got grab start. I do drop the on though. Anyway, so that looks good. And then that's going to connect to our local grab start dot bind parentheses. This is going to pass all the parameters. And then if I hover over grab start here, we can see that it's received, like I said, with the Boolean is right hand and player. So very nice. Now we need one more event connection. So I'm just going to hit Command C, Command V to duplicate this line. This event is collide with player on player collision. There it is. And we want to connect that to a local method of a similar name. So I'm going to copy our grab start method and then remake it and call it player collision. Player collision, nice. There is no is right hand in player collision, so we can delete that. It's just player parameter. We can then bind this to our player collision method. And if we hover over this, we can check. Ooh, there's actually a lot of properties. So let's get all of these properties. So we have the collided with player. we have the collided at position. I like to call that position. So as you can see, you can kind of name these parameters as you wish. And we'll call that vec3. And then let's see what other parameters we have. Then we have the normal. That's nice, though we don't need it. Normal, relative velocity, local collider name, other collider name. Yeah, I think we're just going to stick with the basics. Relative velocity is kind of nice to have, but I think I'm just going to stick with these two, and I'm pretty confident that works. You don't have to have all the parameters for that to go through, which is a pretty big distinction between TypeScript and code blocks. So now that we've got that set up, we're going to recognize that we've connected these. We now need a way to place it, which is why we have the raycast up here. And we need this to place itself after it's been utilized. So the idea is that this is going to place itself somewhere around the Got a Lot of Lava map, and then players are going to grab them, they're going to throw them, and a short while after being thrown, if they don't hit a player, they need to despawn. So we also need to know about grab end, so when they let go. So let's go ahead and copy this again, Command C, and then call this grab end. And then that doesn't have an is right hand. There we go. And then we'll duplicate this one, Command C, Command V, and then because we have some related method or events and methods, I'm going to try to differentiate them like this. So we have our grab up here, player collision stuff here, so just some nice spacing. So we got grab start, grab end, then player collision. And let's see. Keeping that in mind, I can imagine you throw this from across the map and it takes maximum of 10 seconds to get somewhere. So on grab end, so we imagine someone's picked this up and they've thrown it. We need to know about the current player. So let's create a parameter up here, or variable up here, which is going to be called current holder, colon, which is a question mark first, meaning it could be undefined, and it's of type player. And so we have current holder of type player. And now when the grab start event goes off, we're going to set the current holder to be equal to the player. So we say current holder equals player, and then grab end is going to say we need to call a method right here. We're going to create it called, I'd call it like reset or hide below map. Seems like a good name. And so the idea is that once you let go, it's going to call this. So we call async, async dot set timeout, parenthesis, or actually we're just going to use a binding. So we'll say hide below map dot bind parentheses this, and then comma, and then 10,000 or 10 seconds is 10,000 milliseconds. So we're saying we're going to call hide below map after a wait of 10,000 milliseconds or 10 seconds. And then hide below map is going to set current holder equal to undefined. So we're just going to reset who's holding it. We're then going to let's add a comment here. Start random 10 to 40 second timer to place on map. On start, we should also hide below map, so we'll call hide below map on world start as well. And so grab start, we set the current holder to player. Grab end, we have done this timing out to hide below map. So this is when it throws. Now on player collision, we have two things we need to check for. If parentheses the current holder is triple equal to undefined. So if current holder equals undefined, and I think we should make this a little bit more specific up here. Like it does say this. Yeah, it is player undefined. I was just thinking I could start the value. Anyway, we do kind of start the value here on world start because we're calling this on world start. Just wanted to be extra certain it was undefined. So this dot current holder triple equals undefined. Then we want to do something else. If parentheses, and then we're going to say if current holder does not equal the player. So imagine you throw it up in the air and it hits you as it's falling back down. We don't want it to stun yourself. Although part of me kind of wants it to, but my real concern is that when you let go, it might accidentally like hit yourself. So this prevents any sort of collision with the person who held it. So that's good. And we also don't do anything when it's undefined. Now what I want to do if it's undefined is actually set the holder. And I also want to create this timer here. We were talking about it being a Boolean, but I'm going to say last hit time is going to equal 0. So last hit time we can use in player collision to make it so that we only detect one player collision per second. And so we're going to say if, and we need to know the current time, so we're going to say constant current time equals date dot now, and then if parentheses current time minus last hit time is greater than 1000, which is 1 second in milliseconds. So then we're going to do all of this stuff. And in addition to doing all of this stuff, we are also going to set last hit time to be equal to the current time. So that's how we update that. Okay, so current time is date.now. If it's greater than 1000 seconds since the last hit, we then update the last hit time. And then if this dot current holder triple equals undefined, what we want to do is put the snowball in that person's hand. And so we could type this dot entity dot force hold. No, we got to do as parentheses grabbable entity dot force hold, and then parentheses player comma handedness. I don't have that. We are going to have to assume they're right-handed, although we can store this value. So if you've been following along with the if you've been following along with the Got a Lot of Lava development, you might know that we have access to a player stats, which I'm going to have to now update to version 6. And we're going to add a handedness parameter. And here we can see, it's not going to go into this one, it's actually just in the defs, that handedness is the property it's looking for. And so we will say it's of type handedness, and command save. And handedness should just be a simple enum of left or right, so it shouldn't be a big deal. And now what we're going to do is need to define this. Now we know this is in version 6, so we're going to go to our player stats functions, and we need to add handedness in here. So we're going to say handedness colon defaults to handedness not dot right. And with handedness dot right set, we also need to import this when they come back into the world. So we say, and I'm just going to copy this line here, Command C, Command V, if stats version is greater than or equal to 6, meaning they're in the latest version of the stats, so they've been here since handedness was added, we can then look up their handedness and set it to the correct handedness. Okay, so how do we get handedness? Well, we get it whenever they actually do grab the snowball. So if you're in VR and you grab it with your left or right hand, we're going to receive this is right hand. And that's going to allow us to go and say constant player data equals player data map dot get parentheses, and then we're going to type in player We're then going to verify that that player data is good. And then we can say player data dot stats dot handedness. And now that equals either left or right based on is right hand. So we type is right hand question mark, and then we can type handedness dot right, and then colon handedness dot left. So if is right hand is true, it uses the left side of this colon. If it's false, it uses the right side of the colon. And so it's setting the value whenever they grab the snowball. Now, if you don't have a player data, player stats thing set up in your world, you can just type handedness dot right. That's okay. We're not going to do that. We're going to, of course, create another copy of this. I'm just going to copy literally that right there. Command C, Command V, and then add another curly brace. Click Enter. Shift Alt F will reformat it to make it pretty. We can then Alt arrow this up into here. So we're saying we must have a player data, and assuming that we have a player data, which we should, there's no reason we shouldn't, we can now call player data dot stats dot handedness. And then after handedness, it needs to know if we are going to allow release, which we will, so we'll set that to true. And so now if you walk into the snowball and it's not yet been assigned to a player, what this does is it forces you to hold it. Kind of nice. Now, if you are not so fortunate and someone's thrown this at you and it's hit you and you're not the holder, then we want to freeze you in place. And to do that, we say the player that was hit dot speed, right, is locomotion speed. That's got to be it. Okay, it says the speed at which the player moves. Locomotion speed equals 0. And let's hover over this to see what it says. Oh, right, you got to use dot set parentheses 0. And if we hover over that, we can see that it doesn't have, what are the units range? These are supposed to be private remarks. You forgot to private that. The speed at which the player moves. Yeah, it would be nice to know more. I'm pretty sure this is based on the 4.5 and 5.5 meters per second defaults, where 4.5 meters per second is the default in a world. And if you hold down your run speed, that's 5.5 meters. So now that we set their locomotion speed to 0, we need to reset it after half a second. And so we can type async dot set timeout parentheses. We're going to call an arrow function and then curly braces. And then after the arrow function, we type 500 milliseconds, which is half a second. So you're getting frozen for half a second. And then to unfreeze inside the curly braces, we type this exact same thing, Command C, Command V. And then assuming I'm right about the units, this should be 4.5, which is 4.5 meters per second, which is the default for the world. So Command save. Okay, so you get hit by a snowball, half a second later, you're unfrozen. And that's most of it. We now just need to do this random placement after 10 to 40 seconds. And the script's pretty much done. So we have hitting, delaying, we have grabbing, we have force holding. So my thought about force holding is if you're on mobile and you run through a snowball, it might be nice if it just puts it in your hand. You can still tap on it on mobile, but this would be just one way. Now, throwing on mobile isn't my favorite thing in the world, so I'm probably going to make an advanced version of this that's going to take me hours, literally, which is why I'm not doing it on video. If you ask me in the comments, I'll think about it, doing it as like a live stream or like a hangout recording or something. But the point is that I have some ideas on how to make the mobile throwing experience better by just using like the index trigger throw event. Index trigger down has a button press correlation on VR. And so I was thinking about doing that and then just launching it forward. So we'll have to look into that. But yeah, seriously though, if you are interested in seeing that video, you should make a comment today on Thanksgiving so I know in case I'm doing it tomorrow. That you want me to record it. Which I think is a quick moment to explain kind of where the current trajectory of Got a Lot of Love is, because I have said at one point in these video series that I would love to put as much of this, really I said all, but I want to get as much of these kind of tutorials from making this world as possible onto the internet, because there's so little like TypeScript API videos out, so I'm trying to get you as much as I can. But I'm also getting to the point where it is very fatiguing. I have done this every day since I've been allowed to. So I'm going to be taking probably some days and multiple days at points to not do any videos and mostly just type code, because I think talking out loud can be quite fatiguing. So just let me know if you want that, because I probably won't record it. I'm looking for more videos like this one that we're in right now, where it's like topic oriented. So like I love to do a stats custom UI tutorial and stuff like that. Okay, so now we need to place on the map. And to do that, we're gonna do a place on map. And place on map is going to need to be called here after a random 10 to 40 seconds. We're going to do that simply, just like you've been seeing several times now, async.setTimeout, parentheses, and then, oh, we forgot to play effects. Let's put a comment down here, / play effects, hide snowball, visually and collidably. Okay, so first in the set timeout, let's finish that. We're going to call place on map dot bind parentheses this, and we want this to happen after a random time. And so I'm going to do math.floor. I don't know if this is required, but I prefer to be safe than sorry. And we want this to be math.random, which returns 0 to 1. So if we multiply that by 30, that's going to give us a random number between 0 and 30. And I want this number to be between 10 and 40. So we take 10 plus math.random times 30. Now to very clearly see the order of operations, I'm going to put parentheses around that. And then I'm also going to put parentheses around all of this. And then at the very end, I'm going to multiply it by 1,000 because there's 1,000 milliseconds per second. So if I hit Shift-Alt-F, okay, that didn't change anything. But if we just read the parentheses here, we have math.random times 30, so we have 0 to 30 here. Then we have 10 plus that, so now we have 10 to 40. Now we take that random of 10 to 40, multiply it by 1,000, gives us a random time between 10,000 and 40,000, which is in milliseconds for when this is going to happen. Very nice. Okay, so place on map will now be called, and we're going to need to do some stuff in here. So I'm going to put a red dot next to it to remind me to come back to it. But what we need to do is think about this collidability and hideability, which is when we're doing hide below map, I want to take this dot entity dot visible dot set to false, and then Command C, Command V, and also change the collidable property to false. So it's not visible, it's not collidable when below the map. Very nice. Now when we place it on the map, we need to reset those values. So we're just going to copy these two, Command C, oopsie, Command Z, Command Z, Command V, and then set this to true. Ooh, that didn't work. True, there we go. And then maybe Command C, Command V is faster. Okay, so now we've set the visible and collidable. We're going to need to raycast, I'm just making some notes, and then raycast and place above if within valid area. Okay. So now we've got right here we need to play effects, and we also wanted to turn off the visible and collidable so that it looks like the snow just turned into a snow poof. And so we're going to take this right here and just add these two lines here, Shift-Alt-F. We could call this hide below map, but I think we only want this to happen one time. And since we're calling this when the grab end event is received, oh, and we need to make sure that if they re-grab it for some reason that it clears the hide below map. So on grab start, okay. Sorry, lots of little like potential bugs. We need an async ID. So we're gonna call this the, excuse me. This is for the hide below map. So we need a hide below map async ID, which will start as 0. Async ID. A-S-Y-N-C, async ID, there it goes. And then on grab start, we want to clear out the async. So you do async dot clear timeout parentheses, and then that's the hide below map async ID. And then to get this async ID, right when we call it here, we can type hide below map async ID equals this value. And if you hover over async, you'll see that async returns the ID. Should say that. Set timeout. Hover over set timeout, and then it returns the timer created by the set timeout. This can be cleared using clear timeout to cancel it. So this is like the same as send event with delay, cancel sending event with delay. That's basically what this is. Now, with that set up, now hide below map comes off, and that theoretically keeps it, because these are the only two places it's being cleared and called. I do believe it's possible to glitch Horizon and send two of these. And if that happens, it might flicker around on the map because it's going to do this placing thing multiple times. So that's where having a is placed Boolean could be very useful. So we'll grab a new Boolean. Well, actually, no, we don't have that. So we're going to say call is placed, which equals false. And so when hide below map is received, it's going to say if parentheses is placed triple equals false, or not exclamation not is placed. Oopsie, curly braces. And then we're going to say is placed equals true, because we've just placed it. Oh, actually, I have this in the wrong spot. We're going to put this into the place on map. There it is. Okay, so when place on map is received, if it's not been placed, we're then going to do all the placement stuff, but inside of this here, so is placed on map is equal to true. And then we can set this to false when we hide it below the map. That seems like the appropriate. Is placed is set to false. Although we could set it to false when they grab it, which is probably the most accurate way to use the name. So on grab start, we'll set is placed to false. Does this mean that somebody could grab it and then it gets ripped out of their hand, though? I believe so. So we really should do this on hide below map, because that's when we want it to be able to be placed again. So we say is placed equals false. So this is like, once it's hidden below the map, then we will allow you to place it again. And then hide below map is only called on grab end after 10 seconds, and we are theoretically clearing the timeout. So that should be okay. Place on map. There are other ways we could do this, because we are doing set visible and collidable in here. We're changing the current holder to undefined. We're setting his place to false. If we call the VFX inside of this, call FX, you could get a like interesting thing. Like if you throw a snowball really far, it could like poof in the air, which could be kind of cool. It could also be rolling on the ground and then poof. No, we really shouldn't call the effects here. Okay. Just like there's a million ways you can do things, so there's no wrong answers. There's only interesting solutions. Happy accidents, as my buddy Bob Ross would say, right? Raycast and above. Okay, we're going to get back to that. Put a red dot where that goes. So now on player collision, we've set the visibility and collidability. Now we need to play the effects. Now, if you haven't already, I've been giving out these utility files. At some point, I need to go and make a folder, but I've got all these utilities that I've been sharing. You can get those in the MHCP Discord, and action utils is pretty straightforward. This is play sound effects for duration, play visual effects for duration. Just makes utilizing these things a lot easier. And at some point I'm going to put together a Google Drive folder where you're going to be able to get these files. I just haven't done that yet. Here's me saying I need to go do that. So, do I have Chrome open? Let's go to Drive. Let's just do it now, okay? There will be a link in the description for all of these files. New folder. Come on. Drive. Oh, my internet connection's super weak. Might need to connect to my phone hotspot. Give that a second. There it goes. Okay, new. Maybe hit refresh if that's not working immediately. There it goes. Okay. Now we got it. New folder called Vidyuu Assets. Alright, so here's the Vidyuu Assets folder. And inside of here, we're going to create a new folder called Utils. I should rename that as Typescript Utilities, in case it's not clear. Typescript Utils. Okay. And then in here, I need to drag and drop those files. So we've got the action utility, the array utility, the color utility, the component utility, the motion over time, the operator, and simplex noise. I don't know that I'm allowed to distribute simplex noise. If you're interested in simplex noise, check out that video or check out the one from Waffle on horizonhub.info. Those are uploaded. So yeah, I'll get you guys a link to the Vidyuu Assets folder in the description so that you can get access to all of these. In the beginning, I was worried that I had to like only share these via the MHCP, but I've seen that we have like GitHubs and stuff, so it sounds, and I've been kind of given verbal permission, it seems, to share TypeScript files like this. So we should be good. Okay, so share, copy link, there we go. All right, so in the utilities, we have action utils. And action utils has, oh, it also has play haptics, which is nice. And actually, we should play haptics because we want to play haptics on the player who got hit. Duh. Oh my gosh, so great that that popped up. So the player is the player we want to play haptics on. And we're going to do so many effects. I love effects. The number is the number of milliseconds. So we'll set this to, I mean, they're frozen for half a second, right? So 500 milliseconds. That seems to make sense. The haptic strength is going to be medium, and the haptic sharpness, haptic sharpness is going to be coarse, like you're shivering is kind of the idea in my head. We're not going to pass an is right-handed Boolean. It's not specifically stated here, but if it's undefined, that means that it is going to play on both hands. Okay. And then action utils dot play sound effects parentheses, and then we want to pass this dot props dot sound effects dot. Actually, I don't think we have to pass as audio gizmo, but it does need to know the position, and the position is the position we received here inside the player collision event. So we'll just type POS, and now that's happy. We'll hit Command C, Command V, and do play VFX. And then change this to the VFX, which will also be played at the same position. And now we have our sound effects and visual effects being played. Awesome. All right, so now to place this is one of the harder things to do, because we need to know a lot of values, like how far can we place it, where can we place it, lots of stuffs. So in my world, it's all around 0, 0. And so I'm going to set this up very manually here. You'll have to set it up for yourself to match the area of your world, but you'll see what it's like if you're on the grid like my world is. And so I'm going to say top constant above position equals new vec3. And then I'm going to type 0, 0, 0, and then I want to change the top position to be like 50 meters up. So it'll start from way above. It's then going to fire a raycast down. And then what we want to do next is say, okay, we've got our above position. We need the Z to be a random number. And I've got that new operator utils dot, we built this a couple days ago, get random number from range. And we can set this to be from negative, I want to say 50 to positive 50, and we want this to be a decimal place, so is integer will be false. And then we copy paste that, Command C and Command V. So now we're getting something basically on the grid. And the question for me here is, how do we make sure that this is when it hits, if it's within the valid area? And I'll show you what I'm going to do to determine that in just a minute. So we raycast in place if within valid area. So now we need to raycast downwards. And so we call const, we'll call this ray hit, and ray hit is equal to this dot props dot raycast dot as parentheses raycast gizmo. The question mark means that if this is not defined on the properties panel, it will return undefined. And then we are then going to say dot raycast and then parentheses. The origin position is the above position. The direction is vec3 dot down. And the options are optional, which provides maximum distance and stuff like that. I don't think we're going to provide any options. We're going to set that all up on the raycast itself. And so the ray hit returns either a raycast hit, null, or undefined. And so we can say if the raycast did hit, and then we're going to need to determine a thing. And so we've created this thing here. So what I want to do is make this loop until it finds a valid position. So we'll call this let valid position equal vec3.0. And then what we need to do is check that this position is valid. And so we can do that by saying while parentheses valid position while valid position dot y is less than, and so I want this to be within the range of, I want to say 3 meters above the y. So we'll call this 2.5 meters. So while the, we'll do 3 meters. So a valid hit position would be y is less than 3 and valid position dot y. So this is an invalid position. If it's less than 3, right, 0 would be 0. Or valid position is greater than, so if it hits too high on the mountain, which I want to say is like 12 or 15, we'll start with 15. So if the hit position is greater than 15, we'll then put all of this inside of here. And so we've said constant above position equals new vec3. So let's grab this random position. It's now raycast. Now it says if ray hit did hit, we should also do a counter here just to like time out. So we'll say let counter equal 0. And then inside of here, every time this while loop runs at the very end, we'll do counter plus plus. And so actually I want to put this at the beginning and I'll show you why in just a sec. Okay, so we say counter plus plus will then increment every time, and that way we can find a way to get out of this loop if we need to. I'll show you how we're going to do that in a second. So we got the above position, we've got the ray hit. If the ray hit is valid, We then say valid position equals ray hit dot hit point dot add parentheses new vec3, and actually we can just use vec3 dot up. Basically I want to move it up by 1 meter, and vec3 is a 0 1, or vec3 dot up is 0 1 0, so it's 1 meter up. So this moves our hit point up by a meter, which is where we would display the the snowball. And now if that position is a valid position, it will stop the while loop, and we can now move the snowball to that position. But if the ray hit is not valid, and we say else if we have an invalid position and the counter is sorry for my cough today. It's like being attacked. It doesn't feel great. Okay, so if the counter is greater than I just want to talk, throat. Is it that much to ask? If the counter is greater than, let's say, I don't know, 25. So if it's run this loop 25 times, we're then going to set the valid position to just a generic position, which is going to be, so valid position dot or equals new vec3 of 0, 5, 0. So this will just place it at a position. It's relatively generic. I might actually place this at 8 to make sure it's really up high enough to see, so we can kind of visually see in the world that there's a bug. I could put this low at like, I guess, like 3.5, so that way it's kind of hidden, but I think this is okay. So now we've got at the end of the while loop, we need to place, so we say this dot entity dot position dot set to the valid position. Really, that's it. Yeah. So that's going to move it into position, so it's ready to go. Oh, we haven't turned physics off and on, so that's important. So on grab start, we need to turn physics on. So we say this dot entity dot physics dot as physics entity dot physics. What are the properties? Dot gravity enabled. Set simulation. I think simulation would do it. Simulated dot set parentheses true. So setting this to true turns on its simulation property. Okay. That's on grab start, but I feel like that's not what we want. Determines whether grabbing and physics is calculated. Yeah, so this means grabbing would have been turned off. So we don't want simulation. We want to use something else. There should be, we could do the gravity, but then it could float off into nowhere if something weird happens. Like a snowball hits the snowball or something. Why don't I see... Physical entity dot... It's like, I feel like there's something in code blocks that exists for this. I guess there is Waffles tool. I don't use it often enough. This would be the one place I haven't touched this, I guess. Let's go see what he says. So back in Chrome, we go to Horizon Hub.info, and then in the Horizon Hub info, once you have MHCP access, you'll get access to non-Horizon features. We can then go to the Typescript to code blocks conversion feature, and we want to find the, I think it's, it might be an action. We're still in events. There's still in events. I might need to do Command F, but I don't remember the name. It's been a while. There's player motion. There's motion, physical motion. Set object physical motion. So physical entity dot locked. Ah. Okay. That might be what it is that we're looking for. Dot locked. Dot set. Parentheses. This says the property value. There's no... Okay. So it's not explaining what this is. True if the physics system is blocked from interacting with the entity. False otherwise. Ah. So set lock to true. Lock.set true. The physics system is blocked from interacting with the entity. Okay, so yeah, we don't want this to be interacted with. Oh, actually, this is where we want it to be interacted with. So this is where we set it to false. And then right here on hide below map is where we set it to true. So this locks it so it can't move with physics. And then we set that once they grab it to, yeah, perfect. Command save. Okay, so now that that is set up, let's see, player collision, ray casting. The video is way longer than I intended, sorry guys. But it's got a lot in here. I definitely wouldn't call this an easy tutorial now that we're near the end. There's definitely something I'm missing and I forgot what it was. Oh, I think it needs to time out after some period of time. So, right, we have grab end sets a timeout for hide below map. We clear the timeout here. And what we want to do is say on placement, we're going to also send this hide below map after, let's say, 60 seconds, maybe. So place on map is going to say hide below map after 60 seconds. And we also need to clear the async interval. Whenever we call async, you really want to make sure to also call clear, just in the off chance that something's gone wrong, so that you don't have two of these and you lose access to one of them. Because clear timeout doesn't clear all of the previous async IDs, it's just clearing the most recent one. There might be a way to create a function that would do that, but anyway, just call clear timeout before you set the new one is an easy way to do that. Which are we doing here? No, we're not. So let's do that here too. Even though it's not necessary, it's just good practice. And oh, but this one doesn't actually have a async ID. This is the one that has the async ID. There it is. Okay. Cool. So, place on map calls hide below map. And hide below map, does it reset everything correctly? It says is placed to false. It says current holder to undefined. It locks the physical entity, sets these. Seems pretty good. We'll have to play with it just to double check, but I think that ends our scripting tutorial. Like just double checking everything. So it's going to find a valid position. It's going to move to that position. There might be a place to have a Boolean here. I'm going to show you something optional called is floating. Do we really want? We're doing it. Is floating equals false. Okay, so what is floating? On start, we're going to call a loop. This loop is going to run twice per second. Actually, I kind of want to do 4 times per second. So we're going to call async dot set interval parentheses. No, we'll do twice per second. Loop dot bind parentheses this, and then comma, and then the timeout is going to be 500 milliseconds, so that's twice per second. And then what we want to do is do the same thing we did here with the ray hit. So we're going to raycast and find the valid position and then move to the valid position, Command C. So let's go copy some of this into our loop. But we only want to do this if is floating, curly braces. And we have to make all this stuff look pretty. Looks like I might have messed something up, but we'll see in a second. Okay, so ray hit, raycast from this dot entity dot position dot get. So we're getting the current position of self. We're raycasting down. Theoretically, that won't collide with self, although if I'm wrong, we'll have to adjust the position. And then if ray hit, then we set valid position. Not really. What we really just need to do is move this into here, delete all of that, check that I have an extra curly brace in here. So that was the issue we were seeing outside of this. And then this isn't going to be valid position. This is going to say if ray hit, Command X, Command V, delete. So we move to that position. So basically this is going to track the position of the thing below it. And then I want this to move smoothly. And so I have a thing called overtime that's in that utilities that I just shared. So we're going to say move to dot start parentheses, this dot entity is the entity we want to move. This is the position we want to move to. So I'll go Command X, Command V. We want to take 500 milliseconds. So we'll type 500. And then that's going to make it a little smoother. Cool. So now is floating will need to be set. And so when grab start, that's when we set is floating to false. We'll say is floating equals false. We also set is floating to false when we hide below the map, just in case it was reset. We'll move that like that. And then we also need to set it to true when we place on map. So we set is floating equal to true. Oops, true. And Command save. Okay, now the scripting is totally done. And yeah. So theoretically, there might be some bugs in here, but theoretically, you take this, you attach it to like a grabbable object with physics. On world start, it's going to hide it, which is going to set all the physics off, right? Because it says lock to set to true. It's going to hide it below the map. And then 10 to 40 seconds later, it's going to place it on the map. I'm going to have to test this later because I got to go do breakfast. All right, we are back. And here I'm dropping all of these scripts over and replace files in the destination. There we go. Got our scripts updated. And with those scripts in, I like to just delete the current folder now that I'm done with it. Delete. There we go. And then that's all finished compiling. So we just need to bring out some stuffs. Nothing too crazy. Number one, we need a snowball. So I'm going to go out here to the center. And I want to just start with one that we can use and then update the rest. So shapes, we're going to grab a sphere. This is probably too massive, which could be a bit of a problem. Let's try to get an idea of scale by dragging it down to the ground. There we go. So now we can kind of see, and we know these are pretty big. So I'll grab the scale tool, grabbing the square, squish it. There we go. All right, so now that I've got this, which is going to be our snowball, it's going to name it snowball. And then we got to set up the properties. So we got visible, collidable, collision layer, everything, motion, interactive. That'll give us the ability to grab it. We also want it to have physics, so we'll say both. Gravity will be or it will be regular gravity. We've got position, it's fine. Physics is fine. Physics audio material we're not going to use. Well, I guess it wouldn't be too bad to have like a stone sound as it hits. Maximum distance for the stone sound will be 30 meters though. Minimum distance will be 0. Bounciness, okay. Collision events from nothing. No, we want from players. That's how we get those player collisions. We're going to be able to collide with players' heads, torsos, but not hands. Grab block will not be on. Avatar pose will be. I don't know. We'll try RPG for now. Two-handed grab will not be allowed. Who can grab is going to be anyone. Who can take from holder is only the person holding it. Primary action icon is not relevant. Enable throwing controls. Yes, good job. Got that on. Avatar attachable is not a thing for this. And now we're not going to include this in the bakes. And we're going to go to scripts and attach the snowball script. Alright, snowball script is attached. We now need to reference a raycast. So we're going to go to script dropdown, pull out a raycast gizmo. And there it is. Alright, so this raycast is going to be called the snowball raycast. It's going to be able to collide with objects tagged. Sure. We aren't actually going to tag any objects. It should be fine. We're going to set the raycast distance to 100 meters. That should be more than enough. The position is fine. There's no script attached. We just need to click on here. And in the raycast slot, we will type snowball, and we will see the snowball raycast. There it is. And now we need to do the same thing for sound effects and visual effects. And I'm not super crazy. I mostly want to just see this working. So let's see if we've got a nice... We've got smoke poof, water spray, water burst. Water burst kind of makes the most sense since we're on a snow, or it's snow and it's lava. We'll hit play so we can see that. Nice. And so we'll call this snow hit VFX. And the question is, of course, do we have an alternate visual effects in that new VFX pack? And I don't think so. We have water, explosion, leaves, confetti, fire, smoke, dust. Yeah, we could play with those and see, like dust with a... So let's pull out a dust real quick. Dust. Let's click on that one more time. Get the movement controls up. They're there. Dust with it set to like white. There's a dandelion dust. That's crazy. Oh, that's so crazy. I've not played with these yet. Dust falling, dust pollen. Oh, that is so cool. The wispiness. That would actually be really cool to leave over the whole map. Oh man, that is actually really cool. Okay, remember dust pollen. Dust falling. Stop. Play. Oh, so that's like hitting a... those are more like dust explosion. Yeah, that could work. Dust cloud. That's interesting. Okay. So dust explosion has the most potential, but you would need to change the effects properties to be... It looks like it's already set to white. So, I don't know. I actually really like the dust pollen. I'm going to set that to play on start and looping, and we're going to move this to... 0, 0, 0, 0, tab 0, tab 0, and then we're going to set the scale size. We'll set it to, I don't know, 45, 45, 45, so that fills up the whole space hopefully. And then particle density 5, we'll see what that looks like. Play. Thought that would do more. Particle density 50. Stop and play. Huh. Maybe size doesn't do what I think it does. We go down to 0, 0. Okay, here it is. No! Interesting. Would have expected that to be on all the different values. Is there not a way to scale this? If I scale this by 2, does it do anything? Doesn't look like it. 2? Doesn't seem to be 2. Maybe a little bit. Set this to 20. No, that definitely doesn't do anything. 1, tab 1, tab 1. Okay. So size didn't seem to have any effect. Speed could be going down to 1. Yeah, that's nice. Particle density back to 5. So it's a little more wispiness. Curious what these sizings do. Because I would have expected... Let's stop and play. Okay. So I've turned it down, and now there's just a few particles. Like here and there. They're very sporadic. Let's turn it up to 500 so we can see them. Stop and play. Okay, so now we can see the space that it's filling. Ooh, but it does start to get super laggy. Backspace. Stop. Does that seem like it goes down? It definitely seemed like it was going down. So we set that to 450. Which makes sense because that's the Y scale. So that's like what I would have expected for Y. So let's change that back to 45. And then let's change this to 450. Let's stop, play. Interesting. We're now getting some above. Let's try moving the position up to like 20 up. So there's all these properties you can play with, as you can see. Let's change this from 450 to 45 again. And then stop and play. Play. Alright. It's like little bits of ash floating through the air. It's quite neat. I'm thinking I want to move this down closer to the bottom, so I'll set that to 5. Right. And then we'll hit stop again, wait a second. Now hit play. What a neat effect. I think it's working the way I want it to work now. Maybe just one of the properties wasn't correctly set in the beginning. Because before it was like just a straight line, but now it actually seems to have volume. Let's try changing this to 200. Stop and play. So at 200 we should see the space more filled, which is kind of cool. And we're getting it all the way up here, so this 45 is definitely doing something that it wasn't doing before. Let's try changing that to 25. Stop and play. So I'm imagining that's going to bring the particles in closer. How about below? It is doing below now. So let's move this up to 25. So theoretically that's 25 up, 25 down. Let's go ahead and hit stop. And let's change this position to 15. And change this to 15 as well. So 15 up, 15 down. So that should be much more dense. Go ahead and hit play. Obviously I don't want this actual density level, but I'm just trying to see if it fills the space, which it does. We'll now change the density to 20. Stop and play. And theoretically this is like low density particles that you'll sporadically see here and there, which is kind of neat. Kind of think it might be better to put it like closer to the lava. But having them kind of up is fun too. Like, it almost feels like it would be good to do 2 layers of this. So if we did Control D, and then slid this one down to the ground, and then change the properties to be like 3, and then keep the density so that there's more down by the lava. So it's the same exact thing, but just more right here. Maybe change the size to, yeah, 3 should be good. And then move that down just a hair. Let's hit play. So yeah, there's extra particles down by the lava, and then you got sporadic particles like up in the sky. That's sweet. That's really sweet. I'm thinking we change particle density on this bottom one to 10, because I don't want there to be too many. Stop. Play. Okay. So anyway, now that we got that set up, back here on our snowball, we have our snowball hit VFX, which we're currently using as a raycast. We'll stick with that because I couldn't find anything better. We're now going to go to our snowball and then reference the snow hit effects. Go snow hit VFX, and now we need a sound effect, and there are some sounds in here, so we'll go sounds, search for snow. There is nothing in here called snow. Hit. I can't hear these right now. My darn audio, for some reason, defaults to using the Oculus. It's so frustrating. Oh, it says it's using Apple speakers, but I'm definitely not hearing anything. Volume's up. Oh, right, I forgot. These don't play correctly. Let's try using the AI. That is my favorite tool anyway. Okay, so we go to AI and we type in sound that we want to hear, which is going to be a 2-second sound, real small, and we want it to be a snowball hit and generate. All right, let's see if we can hear anything here. Ooh, that's the one I want. Okay, go back to assets, head into the lava, got a lot of lava folder. There it is. And then we're going to save this hit sound effect into here. So we'll go click 3 dots, saved asset library. All right, that should appear here any moment. There it is. We'll drag that out, place it there, and then need to change the properties of this. Goes out of Gen AI. All right, so we have snow hit sound effects, and we're just about ready to test this. We just need to move that out of the way, select this. I wanted to make sure this was called, yeah, it is VFX, good. And then double, or go down to the properties panel and add the parameter, or the variable reference to the snow hit sound effect. Okay, so we got our snowball set up. And what we want to do is have quite a few of these. So for the sake of just testing, we're going to do Control D, slide over, 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 and Control D, slide over. So that should put a fair amount of snowballs on the map. We'll go ahead and hit play and see if these get placed. They should get placed after 10 to 40 seconds. So if we jump into console, jump into preview mode, and we should see a snowball appearing soon somewhere. Somewhere. No errors on the console at this point, so still hopeful. A little nervous that I don't see anything yet. My spacebar is still not perfect on this computer. Kind of wondering if something's gone wrong. You can tell the snowballs have definitely hidden. The time has definitely gone past the time at which we should be seeing snowballs. So, I'm going to guess that something's wrong. I do love these little particles out here. I kind of think they need to be a little bit higher. Okay, stopping. Really adds quite an element. Okay, so we're going to take this and slide that up. We'll click F to focus. There we go. And slide up. That was just by half a meter. Let's try that one more time, but going up. Come on. Okay, let's just manually type this in as 8. There we go. Okay, so now that that's at a nice higher position, that should be okay. And then the next thing I wanted to do was go into our script and see why it wasn't running. So we're going to go into the snowball script, 3 dots, open an external editor. All right. Oh, good job, Mommy.
Sticky.
Now it's sticky again? Good. Okay. So in our snowball entity script, we want to make sure that this is just running. We've got on grab start, on grab end, on player collision. We run hide below map here. We run set interval here. If is floating starts as false. We're running hide below map. Hide below map does call async.set timeout place on map. Exclamation point, this is placed. Place on map says if not is placed. Placed is set to false here, so it should be false. Then sets it to true. Kind of wondering if we're running this counter. Let's do console.log parentheses counter. Let's change the duration to be 10 times faster by reducing that to 100. Control save. And so we need red dots on all these changes, so I know to delete and change them back. And then let's go back into Horizon, wait for that to compile. I also want to make sure the script is attached to these. Wait. Okay, there it is. And the script is attached. Clear. Going to hit play. Okay. And oh, wait, I see one. Was it just not working the first time? That definitely landed and is going up and down. Could it be that they're hiding below the lava, like on a rock? We didn't get any counters though. We should have had counters to tell us. Yes, we should have had a counter to tell us how many times that went off. But I don't see any console logs. So how did that happen? Very strange. Well, valid position is less than 3. Oh, and greater than 15. Oh. That's obviously impossible, so this would never have run. This is supposed to be an or statement, my bad. So valid position dot y is less than 3, or the valid position is greater than 15. Then we got to run this. Alright, so that's probably the reason this wasn't working. I don't know why that one started floating correctly. Console log delete. We'll keep this running fast for now. You ready to get going, Nalia? Is that it? I'm almost done. See, I'm placing snowballs. Do you remember throwing snowballs on Mount Rainier? You remember hitting Mommy with a snowball? That was funny, huh? I got it on photo. Okay. Yeah, I'm making snowballs in this video game I'm building. So you're going to be able to throw snowballs while you play. Oh, the snowballs are placed. Okay. Let's jump into preview mode and try it out. Alright, we're in. Now on mobile, we can click. Oh, but I died. But I got the snowball. And to throw on mobile is not easy. Oh, these are huge. Q. And then left and throw. Okay. The hit sound effect is less than ideal. So Q and throw. Okay, totally working. I need a second person in here to test this further, but so far so good. And then if I walk into it, it should place it on my person. So let's try walking into one. So like this one here, walking into it, it auto grabs it for me. And I hit Q and throw. Nice. Okay. There we go. So, as far as I'm concerned, that's working.
I'll do that.
You want to try? All right, guys. I'm going to shrink the snowballs down. I'm going to increase the time here back to 1,000. But that ends our tutorial for today. If you have any questions, feel free to leave them in the comments, and I will see you in the next one. Bye!